Okay. Welcome back, Nick Lenz, Comic Corner Classic Us Known Classics. This episode number 1289 and Doubelshot number 1183. Two more Marvel trades for you. First up, it is Daredevil Volume 3. Through Hell. Yes, still written by Chip Zdarsky. And again, I think it's back to the original. Let me check something here. Yeah, it's back to the original artist they had at the start of this run. Yep, they went back this artist, Marco Chito, who does pretty much all 5 issues in here, along with Francisco Mabala. Now, I forgot to mention this in the last video, that this is actually the 6th volume of Daredevil. No joke, it's 6th volume of the character. And with the last volume ending at 612, when they said to relaunch the book again. So that means, by this point, this book has had about 628 issues. Yep. Now, there's a cut. Now, in the case of Will Smith, we do get a good amount of focus on him. In the case of Cole North, not a lot of focus on him in these issues. Nope, not really. I mean, mostly before he gets webbed up by Spider-Man. And I love the fact that Chip Zdarsky still keeps his classic humor, which I do appreciate that. Daredevil himself spends the first few issues getting the crap beaten out of him by frickin' Elektra, pointing out the fact that he's becoming a lot more reckless than he's ever been. Where he's very sloppy, and the fact that he's more willing to basically he's more suicidal. Which, and of course later on, she proves the fact she beats a bunch of guys without killing them. That, yeah, it does work, but you don't need to be so suicidal. So, and they decide to find out a little investigation, so they start paying business to the governor because of some corruption stuff. Meanwhile, what goes on with Wilson Fisk? Well, he gets invited to some rich person's estate. Before this, he actually tries to have the owl taken to his private island he owns. Owl's like, nah, I'm not going. Because he wants to re-educate him. So he flies away. Yes, the owl flies. If you're curious, though, how the heck he's able to accomplish this, for what I remember, I think it's some mechanical devices attached to his body because the guy can't walk very well. I at least appreciate the fact he's drawing really well. Yes, the owl. Yep. Also, and I think this is really cool, the fact that Elektra is back to wearing her classic Frank Miller garb. Yeah, this is a costume Frank Miller designed for her. And I'm so appreciative. They made the bandana a little bit smaller, but yeah, this is so good. The fact, oh yeah. And love how the artist draws Spider-Man. Yeah, he's actually in like most of the issues in the streets. He actually gets a lot more screen time in these issues. Like, that's interesting. And look, here's the owl, drawn by the artist. Yes, this guy right here is seriously the owl. You're probably thinking, wait, that's the owl? Seriously? I mean, he looks a little different. He looks more like Wolverine. If you're curious, though, he's kind of been like that since his debut, so I don't blame the artist for drawing him that way. But here he looks more close to, it looks like people can easily mistake him to be Wolverine because of the hair. But no, this is the owl. So, right after this, he goes to visit this rich person's estate. One of the guys actually insults him, so he's like, can I please use the washroom? I'm like, who calls the bathroom the washroom? So he goes to it, and then the guy insults him again. And then he proceeds to murder him viciously, covering himself with blood in the bathroom. And as a panic, he calls Wesley, his assistant. And he basically explains what happened. Like, okay, sir, I'll take care of it. Goes a cleaner, threatens Van's family. The guy cleans up basically the bathroom. The body's taken care of. As in the case of, oh yeah, by the way, they have a second car blocking the entrance. Like, this is interesting. And he also takes the time to, apparently change his clothes, which that's interesting. And then after Daredevil Elektra basically confronts the governor, who apparently is crooked, though not much is accomplished from that, And then the volume ends with Daredevil and Elektra having sex for the first time in several years. Though at least in this book they actually reference what happened in the previous volume for the book when Daredevil's intimacy was made secret again. Yep. Oh, and by the way, if you're going to ask the question, did Elektra ever find out who was responsible for altering her memories and having think that she has a daughter? That, believe it or not, that particular question was something that a lot of people asked when the volume ended. Like, did she ever find out exactly who was responsible for altering memories? The answer is no. She never found out at all. It's like we set this up and then we just ignore it completely. Yep. But this is actually pretty good. I like the ending to this. Well, in the case of Daredevil Elektra, this kind of makes sense. And once again, Foggy's in here and he's here for like 2 pages. Yes, Foggy Nelson, Matt Murdock's best friend, is barely in this book. I mean, wow. I'm like, Wade features him prominently in his book. Show at the start of his run didn't feature him that very much, but later on he did. Here, in 15 issues, he's only made appearances in 2 issues. Wow. I'm like, it's almost like Zardesky didn't want to write this series, but he probably was told to do it. Probably because it was either that or he probably would have something bad happen to him. Well, for his writing career, I don't think it did bad personally. But this book is still pretty good. I give this book roughly I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. It feels like a drastic improvement over the previous issues. Especially as the story feels like it's finally moving forward. Because it felt as though the story took a while to move forward. It's like, we just moved baby steps and finally moved the thing forward. Yes. Also, I did notice when I look at the back of the books, I didn't notice before. If you remember, the Immortal Hulk trades were $15.99 a piece. Marvel charged the same price for the Daredevil trades. Unknown why they did this for, but they do. And here's the thing. Aside from the fact that Spider-Man's in here, he mostly is in here to interact with Cole North, and that's it. That's really all his role in here. Elektra's with Daredevil, and of course Will Sylvester is by himself. There's also a brief bit, basically, with this other crime family, which of course Mindy, the woman who Daredevil had a one-night stand with at the end of issue 9. Yeah, that's actually briefly mentioned, where they actually both regretted doing it. Despite the fact that the way it was written, it seemed like Mindy basically was actually falling in love with him. Yep. It's almost like Zardesky didn't want to do that at all. Like, Matt Murdock basically sleep with a married woman. Elektra, that's fine. But in the case of married woman, it's almost like he regretted doing that, so he kind of basically just had it where, oh yeah, it was a big mistake. Yes, Daredevil having to sleep with a smoking out woman aside from Elektra. Yeah. So, if you're going to be curious, so, like, does his old girlfriend, Mark Waid... Here's something interesting, though. I did notice in later issues, his old girlfriend from the Mark Waid run returns. Oh, yes, Kristen McDuffie finally makes a return to the series. Though it takes a long time, because in Charles Schultz's run, she makes appearances like 1 or 2 issues, and that's him. Like, really? No girlfriend from Matt Murdock? Whatever. Alright, next up it is Old Man Logan, Volume 4, Old Monsters. This collects Old Man Logan, issues 14 to 18 of this series. Still written by Jeff Lemire. Artwork is actually 2 stories in here, believe it or not. The first story is Monster War. That's actually done by Felipe Andre. Returns to Wasteland, which takes the last couple issues of this book, is done by the main artist, Andrea Sorrento. Monster War is this really cool story where Logan teams up with the Howling Commandos of S.H.I.E.L.D., making their first appearance since the end of their cancelled series, believe it or not. Yes. The entire team, with the exception of Dum Dugan. Yeah, he's nowhere to be seen here, but the rest of the team is here. And apparently Warwolf is in charge of the team now. Despite the fact, if you read the Howling Commandos of S.H.I.E.L.D., Dum Dugan was in charge, and now he isn't. But it's still the same roster, so if you remember that series, yeah, the same exact roster. No change. And yes, Team Abomination is here as well. So, why are they here? Well, Logan is here initially because he's looking for Jubilee. She has gone missing. And apparently that the Howling Commandos, their vampire went missing too. Vampire by Night, aka Nina. Her name is Nina, and she's the niece of Jack Russell, aka Werewolf by Night. Yep. Now, where in the world were these two taken to? Transylvania! Yep, they're in Castle Dracula. I'm like, wow, that's so awesome. And for the second time ever in Marvel Comics, like, they actually have Logan confront Dracula. Though, in the case of this book, this is interesting. Omen Logan has technically never fought Dracula before. Wolverine has. Oh yeah, the last time he fought was back in the Curse the Mutant series. Yep, where basically he's informed via Cerebra. This something ties into X-Men, Extraordinary X-Men, where he is, well, when the X-Men basically off in limbo. So, of course, I mentioned X-Haven here, which that's where technically where the X-Men were residing in limbo, because they had to move to limbo because of the Terrigen Mist surrounding the planet at the time. Yes, Earth was covered by Terrigen Mist because of Infinity. This went on as a story plot point in Marvel Comics for 4 years. Because there was a big conspiracy theory. Now, there was a theory going around of the reason why Marvel did this. Because their long-running blood feud with Fox over the rights to the X-Men Fantastic Four, so we had to punish the X-Men. Yes, punish them by trying to kill them. And apparently, the myth was also, it was also written in X-Men Gold, that apparently it was trying to take away their ability to, actually it's the X-Men, the ability to have children. I'm like, that was so stupidly written. Of course, remember Mark Guggenheim who wrote that. Cullen Bunn, they write that. Blue is never mentioned at all about the whole thing. Not Blue, was, actually was done by Jeff Lemire. It's the same writer as this. Yep. So, they team up, they fight Dracula. Dracula's beheaded again. Though this time it had been like 5 years since the last time he was beheaded. So, he goes off someplace, and that's it for that. Returns to Wastelands. That is actually a setup for the final arc of this run. Excuse me. Yep. Where Logan goes off to space and remembers, oh yeah, I left a baby behind back in my own time. Yep. This book is just pure fun. And I can't wait to get my hands on the last trade that collects Jeff Lemire's run. So I can move on to Ed Bronson's run, which also is amazing as well. I give this book a 9.5 out of 10. Yep, so yeah, that's it for Single Review. Next one is going to be the conclusion of one particular run, plus a mini-series. Yep, but see you next video. Bye.